Hi. So today we're doing the second half of chapter 51. I'll tell you soon what was the first half and where we're going today. But before that, I just want to share a little anecdote from the Gemara, from the Talmud. There were big scholars. Their name was Abaye and Rabba. They were a pair. And when they were little kids, they were sitting down in a room and they had a conversation. And they had a conversation, in front of um, another Rabba. There's a Rabba with an Aleph, Rabba with a Hey. Anyways, a Rabba with a Hey asked them, so when you say a blessing, who do you say a blessing to? He said, of course, to Hashem. So then he asked the kids, so where is Hashem? And one kid said, here, and he pointed at the ceiling. And the other one, Abaye, he went outside. He walked outside and he pointed at the sky. He said, he's here. So the one that asked him the question, Rabba with a Hey, said, wow, you're both such big scholars, such big Talmidei Chachamim. And I can see that, and he was right, because when you can see in children how smart they are, and that's how they are when they grow up. It's fine, if somebody needs to come over. So it's very interesting. It's not just a question to little children. Where is God? Is he like in the ceiling? Is he in the sky? Is he everywhere? Where is he? It's a very meaningful question to everybody. And what we're going to see today is that understanding where exactly Hashem is really has a lot of implications in our lives. Like it's going to be very important to understand how to live our lives based on knowing where exactly Hashem is. So let me ask you now, where do you think Hashem is? Hello, welcome. I started. It was very quiet here, so I started. Oh. Anyway, it's okay. So where do you think Hashem is? Daniel, where is Hashem?
Everywhere.
Hashem's everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So we often say Hashem is in the sky, Hashem is up in heaven, like there's this thing of like turning up, going our hands and like looking upwards, looking up to heaven, say Hashem is there. But on the other hand, just like Daniel said, we know Hashem is everywhere. How do both of them work simultaneously? Is Hashem everywhere, or is Hashem in the heavens? How do they both work at the same time? So that's what we're going to try to understand. And as I said, this is a continuation to last class, the first half of chapter 51. First half of chapter 51, we were trying to understand where is the soul in the body. And based on that, the same way, we're going to see where is Hashem in the world. So we're trying to understand where is the soul in the body. I'll remind you soon what we said. And today, so we learned last time where's the soul in our body. And today, in the second half of the chapter, the Alter Rebbe is going to tell us where is Hashem in the world. Is he everywhere and at the same time in certain places more? Like how does that work together? So going back to what we learned last time, when we spoke about where's the soul in our body, we learned that the body is composed of 248 organs, right? Different organs. And the soul is actually everywhere. It gives life to every part of the body. The soul is everywhere. Okay. We see that every part of our body expresses a different part of our soul. One part of the body can express that the soul wants to walk. One part of the body can express that the soul wants to give charity with the hand. And one can open up the heart. One can open up the ears. Each part of the body has the soul acting in there. That being said, what we're going to see today is that, so what I'm going to start by saying is that, first of all, the world has a little more than 248 limbs. The world is made up, if you look at the world, it's made up of a gazillion different stuff. Like it's not just 248 limbs, but there's much more. It's composed of much more stuff. So just to give us a little bit of an idea of how the world is composed, of a million and gazillion stuff. Instead of saying million gazillion, we're going to say infinite, like a way that we cannot count. So first of all, the world is what we're going to do is we have categories of where everything falls into. We have four big categories of different types of items in the world. There's the inanimate, okay? So inanimate, within the inanimate, we have different types. You have all the metals, you have all the stones, you have all the waters, you have all the different types of dust, all the different types of earth, okay? And in each type, you have another different type, bunch of different types within it, and different compositions of different things. You know, like if you go into science, there's so much just within the inanimate, just within the stones and mountains and things that don't move. Now, the second category that we have is the vegetables. It's things that grow, the world of things that grow. It's also divided into, within it, there's a bunch of categories. For example, there's all the fruits, all the vegetables, different grass, different herbs, different trees. There's just so much. And within each one, there's so many types, so many, okay? Tons and tons of different types. And we have a third category, which is all the live, like alive things, which are like animals. So they move. So within that, you have also a bunch of categories that within it, there's a bunch of different types. And within it, there's a bunch of different types. For example, you have all the animals, you have all the birds, you have all the fish, you have all the, how do you call it? All the ones that like all the snakes and scorpions that stroll on the floor, the reptiles, the reptiles. So there's so many different types, and within that, there's so many different types, right? And then we have the fourth category is the human. It's the one that speaks, that has the power of speech, that has the power of, we spoke about the fact that the mind is over the heart. And even that, we have different categories within the human. You'll have men and women. You'll have different nations in the world, right? There's in the world, there's millions and milliards of people. There's so many different types of people. And now we're saying that we're comparing all of that to the body of the human being who has 248 limbs, okay? It's like saying that there's not just 248 limbs, but there's so many different vessels and different cells in our body. It's unlimited. And besides from all those things that are in the world that we just spoke about, aside from that, outside of planet Earth, we have galaxies, we have stars, we have a lot of things around planet Earth, tons of little things, tons of things going on. And all this, we're talking about the world that we see, but there's also the world that we don't see, that are the upper worlds, okay? For example, we have within spiritual worlds that we don't see, okay? So it doesn't talk to you as much, but within that, there's also tons of categories, and it's a whole world of its own. The Torah tells us that we have the upper worlds, like the future world. We talk about the Olam Haba, we talk about the Gan Eden, we talk about the Gan Eden, the upper Gan Eden, the lower Gan Eden. There's different types. In Kabbalah, we spoke about that there's four worlds. There's Atzilut, which is the highest world. There's Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. I'll go a little bit more into those worlds later, but there's a bunch of different worlds. And within each world, we have 10 faculties. Chochmah Bina Dat, Chesed Gvura Tiferet Hod Yesod Malchut. Netzach Hod Yesod Malchut. And so those 10 faculties within each world is creating a bunch of different levels and a bunch of different categories. And then you have all types of neshamas and all types of angels. Like the world is like made up of so many types of things and people and all, like it's a whole world. Now, each one of those things that we just mentioned, each unique one has a very unique role in this world, and that's why he was created. I always tell my kids, you wouldn't both be here if you wouldn't be different. Like each one is different because each one has something else to offer in the world, to the world, right? So each one is so unique and so different and has a different energy, each one. Okay, so now that you see that there's a lot of different, all you have to know until now is that we have a lot of different types in the world, and each one is unique and each one was created for a purpose. Now, just like the soul is filling up every limb in our body, the soul lights up every limb in our body, and every limb in our body is alive because the soul is there making it alive. And that's what gives, the soul is what gives it the life. and the ability to function, to do what it's supposed to do. The same way we have a light of Hashem that lights up every single item in this world and gives them the life so that they can function. Hashem's light is when making each thing do its thing. Each person do its thing. Like there has to be a life of Hashem, a light of Hashem into everything to make it alive. This is all based on the fact that the whole world wasn't created. It wasn't a one-time thing that it was created and that's it. We all understand that the world is something that's constantly being created and being maintained. The world cannot constantly exist. All these items in the world and all these people in the world and all these animals cannot exist all the time by itself. There's a force of Hashem that's constantly giving them life for everything to exist on a constant basis. Nothing, if Hashem wouldn't constantly hold it, these things would disappear. They wouldn't be there. Hashem's life force is behind everything all the time. And we say it a few times in our prayer. For example, we say, Ve'ata mechayeh et kulam. In present tense, you're the one that's making everything alive, all of them alive. HaMechadesh b'tuvo b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh bereshit. You're the one that's constantly renewing every part that you created in the beginning of the world. And we say a blessing, we're saying in the present tense, Boreh minei mezonot, like the one that creates all these foods on a constant basis. Everything that we have is on a constant basis being maintained and being created by Hashem. So imagine the soul is not giving life to the body would be dead. But if the soul is giving life to the body is constantly alive. Every part of the body is alive. At every single moment, the soul is giving life to the body. It has to be all the time. So in the same way, we have Hashem's light giving life to every part of the world on a constant basis. And we see it in two ways, the fact that Hashem is there all the time. First of all, the fact that the world exists means that Hashem is the one is holding it and making it created. If Hashem would not be there to hold the world or to constantly recreate the world, it's like it's the same way as if the body would not have a soul, the body would be dead. The world would just fall apart and be dead. Hashem needs to constantly create it, constantly hold it. Also, when you look at all the different creations, the fact that each creature has another role in the world, everything, it's like the wonders of the universe is like unbelievable. How each thing is there for another reason and has a different purpose. There has to be Hashem doing that on a constant basis to create like the whole puzzle of how everything completes each other. The fact that we have honey that's being made by the bee it's like unbelievable. And the fact that the trees are giving fruits, like there's constantly something that Hashem gives each item a role to create in the world, something that's useful for others. Like I'm saying, there's a constant chain of things happening on a constant basis. We know Hashem didn't create anything for no reason. There's a very cute story about King David that asked Hashem, I know you created everything in the world with a purpose, but come on, why did you create insanity? Like, why did you create something, like we call it shtut in Hebrew? Why did you create shtut? Why did you create insanity? Like, that seems to me something extra, Hashem. Why did you create that? Yeah. And Hashem said, laugh until you're going to need it. Lo and behold, King David had to run away from King Shaul, and he arrived to Achish, the king of Gath, whatever. He was like by the enemies, basically. And over there, they recognized by the Pelishtim, they recognized King David. And they knew that this King David is mighty strong. He managed to kill the giant Goliath. And everybody was after King David when he arrived, when he ran away from King Shaul and he arrived among the enemies. Everybody was after him and wanted to catch him and wanted to get him. So King David realized that, and he realized that he's in trouble. He's going to get caught. So he asked Hashem to save him. And Hashem gave him insanity. A gift of insanity, a gift of acting stupid. And that's exactly what happened. He started acting really like he actually was in front of the king over there, in front of the king of the Philistines, in front of Achish,
Yeah.
and he acted very stupid, like literally like his saliva falling down on his beard, like literally acting like an idiot to the point that the king said, I don't need any crazy people here, like go away, you know. And that's how King David was saved from the gift of stupidity. So there's nothing that Hashem created that doesn't have a reason for it. Okay, even like nothing, everything in the world has a reason. There's even another story that the Hashem's I think it's King David asked Hashem, why did you create what is this thing, araignée? How is araignée in English? It's the bug that makes the net, the
What?
a web.
What?
Spider, a spider. Why did you create spiders? Hashem created. Yeah, and why did you create spiders and webs?
Yeah.
Like he asked
Yeah.
Hashem, why did you create
Yeah.
spiders and webs? They make a mess everywhere.
Fruit
Like
flies.
look at,
I-
you know,
I don't like
or fruit flies. Anyways, and he said like they're extras. Meanwhile, Hashem showed him that one day he's gonna need it. And when he was running away, he hid. King David had to hide from the Roman, from whoever the enemy was, in a cave. He hid in a cave,
Oh, yeah.
and the spiders created a web at the entrance of the cave. And when they came, when they were looking for him, when they saw the web, they realized that probably nobody's inside, so they didn't enter that cave, and that's how King David was saved.
I remember these stories.
So there's nothing that Hashem created that doesn't have a reason for it. Okay, everything, and that shows us the beauty of Hashem constantly creating the world and creating so many different types of things and giving energy to all these things in the right place and in the right time, orchestrating like something magnificent, like that we cannot even start to, you know, we can try and start to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it's not just that, the world was not created in one word. Hashem could have said world be created with one utterance, and Hashem used how many utterances to create the world? 10, exactly. Hashem used 10. Why? Because each one of the 10 has a different life force that comes into the world through that specific utterance. Everything is like there has to be 10 different types of utterance to give 10 different life force into the world, and the one that gives the life force to the heaven, to the, you know, to bring light to the world is not the same one that gives the life force to the trees to bear fruits. Like each one has a different purpose and creates different things, creates animals, creates fruits or humans, anyways. So anyway, so we're going to see this in the Tanya, how, first of all, there's lots of different types of things, and the fact that Hashem is constantly bringing light, his life force into all these different types of things. And then we're going to try and figure out where is Hashem. So here on the top. It is truly similar manner, in a truly similar manner. So we were, until now, the first half of the chapter, we were talking about the soul filling up our bodies, okay? So now we're comparing it to Hashem filling up the world. In a truly similar manner, figuratively speaking, does the blessed Ein Sof fill all world so as to animate them. And in each world, there are creatures without limits or end, myriads upon myriads of various grades of angels and souls, and so on. And so too is the abundance of the worlds without end or limits, one higher than the other, and so on. So there's a lot of worlds, there's a lot of types of things, and Hashem is constantly bringing his life force into all these things. Okay. Now, on one hand, we're saying the world is divided into an unlimited amount of different types and different levels of things. And they all come from Hashem's specific light, lighting up that very thing, or giving the life force to that very thing. Does that mean that Hashem divides himself into all these different types and all these different levels? Does that mean that Hashem is divided into all these different types? If we say that Hashem divides himself into all these different types, it would mean that there's a lot of gods. But we know very well that this is not what we think. But very interestingly, the different nations of the world, they think that there is that concept, for every different phenomenon in the world, there's another God. That's why they had a lot of gods. There's the God for the day, and there's the God for the night. There's the God, for the human, and there's the God for the animals. There's like so many gods because there's so many different types of things happening in the world. It can't be one for all. But we know very well from the Torah, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. We have one and only God. Okay, Hashem cannot be divided into a bunch of gods. It's one unique God. Okay. So in God, you don't have 4 worlds and 10 faculties. Okay. For Hashem, if you look at Hashem, he is one, and everything in the world is one. There's no differences between the life force that he puts into one item versus the life force that he put into another item. In the same way, by the way, that our soul doesn't give more life to our hand than our feet. The soul gives life to every part of our body in the same amount. It's one soul making our whole body alive and making every part of our body function. So the same Hashem makes everything function, and he sees everything as equal, and he makes everything function. So from Hashem's perspective, there's one. And if you remember, we had a term for the neshama that we said that it's really one simple spiritual thing. And we say this, and it's the same thing with Hashem. We're saying that there's one God. Okay, it's literally one God. It's not that the neshama is divided into 248 parts. It's one neshama. And in the same way, what we're seeing now, it's one God. So the question now is for Hashem, from Hashem's perspective, is there a separation between the upper and the lower? From Hashem's perspective, is Hashem more in the upper world than in the lower world? So what do you think? It's confusing, right? So we're gonna definitely get to it. And what's interesting is that seeing the world as divided into the higher world and the lower world, that's the myth coming from the different nations of the world. Okay, and we're gonna see how they see things, and we're gonna see, based on that, we're gonna understand how we see things. Imagine those nations of the world, for them, they look at Hashem, or if they have anything spiritual and anything godly, or if they know that there's a God, it's something that's so high, so above, so like, whoa, like it's above everything. Okay, it's the highest spiritual thing to have a God, right? It's something super spiritual. And of course, that God is in the heavens. And of course, he should be something that's spiritual, is in the heavens. And that heavenly God has nothing to do with this world. This world is completely separate from God. This world is super material, super physical. Where's God over here? There's no God over here. God is up there. Here, it's physical. You don't see God. There's no God. And literally based on them, God left this physical world. And what happens when you think that way is that you think that in order to get closer to God, you need to be more spiritual. If God is so spiritual, the way to get closer to God is by putting away, like by separating ourselves from the physical world and attaching ourselves to the spiritual world. The more spiritual you are, the more you're doing spiritual thing, the more you're closer to God. And the more you're doing physical things, the further away you are from God. And that's why such people, if you look at the Christians, they think that it's not a godly thing to get married. It's very physical to get married. It's not godly. It's not spiritual. So all these physical things that are here on earth are going to be so disconnecting from God. And so and at the same time, what they think is that if you're in this physical world, you can enjoy it at your fullest, because whatever you're doing here has nothing to do with God anyway. Like, it's not a problem. Like, you in some places and sometimes you can be connected to God, and now right now, anyways, God is not in here. You can do whatever you want. You can just enjoy this world, just do anything you want in this physical world. And what we see here, what happens for people that think that way, mainly like whatever, all the nations of the world, is that you see it also in the place, in time, and with people, how this happens. The fact that space-wise, they can only connect with Hashem in specific places in the world. Only in a holy place can you connect to God. In the house, in the store, in the street, there's no God. God is in the church, in the synagogue, whatever you want to call it. God is in the holy places because God is only a high spiritual thing, as well as in time. God is only there on special days. God is not there on a mundane day. And also, God is only with the holy people, only with the rabbis, only with the priests, or whatever, those people. Only with the holy people is there God, but regular, simple people, God is not there. Okay? So you see what happens if you think that God is up there and God is not down here. That's what would happen. But we know that this approach is completely wrong, especially for those of us who learn so much Tanya and know how much the physical world means to Hashem. We know that this makes no sense. Okay, saying that Hashem is only spiritual and has nothing to do with the physical, it means that it's basically saying that Hashem is limited to only half of the world. You're basically putting Hashem in a box and saying Hashem is not everywhere. Hashem is only in the sky, and Hashem is only in the synagogue, and Hashem is only, we know Hashem is unlimited. Okay, Hashem has no limits. Hashem he doesn't have a limit of spiritual and physical. Hashem is in everything. He's everywhere and in everything, in every place and in every time and everything. Okay, and because Hashem is above time and above spirituality and above physicality and he's above the above and below. He's above all that, so he can be everywhere at the same time. He can be in anything at the same time. The spirituality is not closer to God, and the physicality is not further away from God. God is equally everywhere. Okay? And it says, we have it in the sources, it says that I fill up heavens and earth in the same much. Like Hashem is everywhere in the same much. And we see, when you look at it from that approach, being holy, spirituality is not necessarily closer to God. Spirituality by itself is not what Hashem wants. Spirituality by itself is not, you're not even connected to Hashem if you're only spiritual. Hashem wants you to connect the physical world. He wants to connect your body with him. So being only spiritual, or only that's not even getting closer to Hashem. And also what we see is that all the physical thing is not disconnected from God at all. The true way is to use the physical world to connect to Hashem. And from Hashem wants us to know him. It says, you should know Hashem in all your ways. You should see Hashem in everything you do. Your whole day should be filled with godliness. Your whole space should be filled with godliness. Everything. So also the space needs to be filled with godliness. Like Hashem is not limited in the synagogue or in Jerusalem or in Israel or in just special places. Hashem is everywhere. Hashem is in your house. Hashem is in your work. Hashem is in the store. Hashem is in the streets. Everywhere. And we say it actually in the Shema. When you walk, and when you go back home and when you go on the way, you should speak of Hashem. Also, when you look at the time, Hashem is not in certain times more than others. Hashem is not limited to Shabbat and holidays. Hashem also during the weekdays, when you go to sleep, when you wake up, Hashem is there. The 6 days of the week are infused with godliness. It's not only on Shabbat. And of course, when you look at all the people, it's not just that only the spiritual people are connected to God. Even simple people can be connected to God. Anyone can connect to God. Like it's just for everyone and everywhere in the same much. So what we're going to see here is so I'm going to show this to you in Tanya to say that Hashem himself is above saying high and low, above upper and lower. He's above all that. Okay. It's something that we can't fully understand, can't fully grasp, but Hashem is everywhere, the same much, equally. Everywhere, upper, lower, spiritual, time, whatever, anything you want. Hashem has no limits and is everywhere the same much. Now, the core and essence of the blessed Ein Sof is the same in the higher and lower worlds, as in the example of the soul mentioned above. wherein the Alter Rebbe explained that the soul's core and essence is not divisible, and thus it cannot be said that it is found in the brain to a greater extent than it is found in the feet. It's everywhere the same much. As is written in the Tikkunim, that he is hidden from all the hidden. This means to say that even in the higher hidden worlds, he is hidden and concealed with them, just as he is hidden and concealed in the lower worlds. If Hashem is hidden there, he's hidden here. He's everywhere in the same much. For no thought can apprehend him at all. Like, we can't fully understand it, even in the higher world. Like, even if you would be so spiritual, you wouldn't be able to grasp Hashem. That's what it was saying. And he's found, with regards to where Hashem is to be found, just as he is found there in the higher worlds, so he is to be found in the very lowest world. Okay, you find him everywhere in the same much. Now we're going to try to understand there is a difference, actually. But before that, I want to say how Hashem is everywhere in the spirituality and physicality in the same much. It's very cute. The student of the Baal Shem Tov was the Maggid of Mezrich. And they were having a Fabring, and he's the teacher of the Alter Rebbe. And they had a Fabring, a gathering, and the Alter Rebbe said that everybody should help. He was blessing everybody, that Hashem should help everybody with in physical and in spiritual. And he said physical first. So they asked him, why are you saying physical first? You should say spiritual first and physical second. So the Alter Rebbe said, that's how it was with Yaakov, our father. First, when Yaakov spoke, he first said, give me bread to eat, give me clothes to wear, and then he said, and Hashem should be my God. Like the way he was quoting the way Yaakov said it, that first give me my physical needs, and then give me my spiritual needs. And somebody that was sitting there, Rabbi Eliezer Kavarditchev, reacted, and he said, can you compare the physical life of Yaakov to the physical life of ours? Like his physical life was much higher than ours. Like he didn't have the same needs as ours. And the Alter Rebbe said, and can you compare his spiritual life to your spiritual life? So his spiritual life was also higher, but his physical came before his spiritual. So our physical can definitely come before our physical. Can definitely come before our spiritual. So because what we're seeing here is that because Hashem is equally in the physical world and in the spiritual world everywhere, so in anything you can say physical before the spiritual. It's all the same. It's not that one is higher or better than the other. Okay, so we saw until now that Hashem, from Hashem's perspective, he's everywhere equally. Okay, and he's found everywhere in the same much with the same intensity. Okay, now if everything is equal, you would think that, okay, if Hashem is everywhere, Hashem is the same much everywhere, I don't need to go higher and higher. I don't need to do more and more mitzvot. What am I reaching higher? Like, what is this whole concept of hierarchy of type of things? If I'm anyways nothing before Hashem, okay, I'm nothing and I'm staying nothing, and it is what it is. Why do I have to strive, or why do we have to? What is this concept of higher? So there is definitely a hierarchy in the world. There is an order in the world. Hashem did create a certain order, and there's definitely things that are higher and things that are lower. Now, the thing is, and from our perspective also, we are separating things from a spiritual perspective, a physical perspective. We are separating things from different worlds. Like we do have separations, and we see that everything in the world has different roles and different purposes. So how does that work together? That I see so many differences. We see so many different types. We see so many different levels. But for Hashem, everything is the same. And we had the same story when we spoke about the soul in our body. We said that there's a lot of different limbs that receive different types of life, different types of characteristic from the soul. The soul can give different characteristic and different life forces to the different parts of our body. Although the soul itself is one, and the soul itself gives an equal amount of life force to every single limb of our body. So how does that work? We said that in the soul, we had 613 potentials, potential of characteristic. Like there was 600 in the soul, there was 610 and 613 potential characteristics. And those characteristics, those potentials were going throughout the whole body and making and giving them life and making the potential come out through the life. So what we see here is we need to separate between the fact that Hashem is one to the light that comes into all the parts of the world. Hashem is one, but the way it's spread into the world and the way the light is into the world is different.
Like if you look
Wait, let me finish. I didn't finish explaining. Let's stay with this train of thought. Okay. So Hashem himself is above everything, and he's everywhere in the same much. Hashem himself is above in the same much. The thing is, what happens on the different levels is that there's curtains. He's more hidden, and there's different amount of light that get through those windows. Because there's more curtains, and that's why it's harder to see Hashem. And that's why from our perspective, some places you'll see more of Hashem, and some places you see less of Hashem. Okay? But Hashem is everywhere in the same much. But there's more than that. Hashem himself, he wants us to be able to receive him. He wants his light to fall into the cup, to fall into the vessel. If Hashem wants me to be able to catch him, if he's coming with his full light, I'm going to fall apart. So Hashem contracts his light for me to be able to receive him into this cup. Okay? So Hashem will contract himself more and more and more depending on the recipient. So in the world of Atzilut, in the highest world, he contracts himself just a little bit. But the lower world Hashem goes to, the more he's going to contract himself. So there's an order of how much Hashem contracts himself to the extent that's how much we can see him. Okay? So what I receive in my cup, the light that I get in my cup, is very little. But it doesn't mean that Hashem is very little. It just means that I receive the small contraction of Hashem because that's only how much I can receive it. And every part of the world, every tiny thing that we mentioned earlier that's in the world, receives some light of Hashem. But to the exact capacity and to the exact characteristic that it needs to receive. Okay? So Hashem makes sure that everybody can receive his light based on the capacities that they have and based on the different roles that they have. Everybody receives some light. So the light that we receive is all different, but it's the same Hashem. Okay? And very interesting, if you look at the Kabbalah, when it talks about the actual light of Hashem, it's described as, the term for it is the big circle. It's actually, there's a term, when you say the big circle, you're talking about the light of Hashem that's equal everywhere. And when you talk about all the contracted parts of Hashem into all the little items, it's called Or Hakav, the light that's like a line, like a straight line. And what's interesting about a straight line, that it shows how thin it is and how much less it is. And it also shows the fact that it's a line, it shows that it's really going from one place to another, from one level to another. Like it symbolizes the fact that it's going from one level to another.
One was a circle.
One was a full circle, that's Hashem's light, and the other one is a line. A light that looks like a ray, that looks like a thin line. Okay, so picture that filled up circle and lines. So we receive like a line and a line and a line and a line. It's like, we can call it also rays of Hashem's light. But it's called Or Hakav, the light that looks like a line. Okay. And that's showing up differently. To give you an example from our life for you to understand is, if you have a professor in university, or like somebody that's very smart, he knows something very well, and he has this concept that he wants to explain to people. So he knows it very well. That piece of knowledge is there perfectly in his brain. But when he talks to women, he's going to narrow it down and give them examples in the kitchen. When he talks to the kids, he's going to give them examples of toys. When he talks to boys, he's going to give them examples of sports, and he's going to try and simplify that knowledge that he has. But the knowledge that the brain of this professor is the same. But he's making it simpler based on the different recipients. You understand? But you see how the professor himself didn't change. He didn't become smaller because he's explaining it to a 5-year-old child with toys. He's the same brilliant person, but he's just sharing a part that the recipient can receive. Okay? Okay. Now, this light that we're talking about, this contracted light, this whole contraction, we already mentioned it in previous chapters of Tanya, but it's called in the Tanya, it's called Seder Hishtalshelut. It's the order of contraction of Hashem's light. Okay, there's a full process with levels of this light of Hashem, how it's going lower and lower, and how it's becoming more narrow, how it's contracting and contracting and contracting. Okay, so we already mentioned it before, but I'm just going to remind you that, for example, we have 4 worlds. Okay, in the highest world in Atzilut, okay, Hashem's light is there very strong. Okay, you can actually, in Atzilut, Hashem's light is at its strongest. Okay, almost nobody can receive it unless you're very holy neshama, very special people. Now, the second level in the world of Bria, Hashem's light is already there's already a contraction. Why? Because there's already, Bria means creation. It means that there's already another existence, another independent existence that was created that receives a certain form. Sorry, not yet, but there's already another existence. So Hashem's light already contracted. And the third world is Yetzirah, where Hashem's light is even more contracted, and that other existence receives a shape. And then the fourth world is the world of Asiya, where there's an even bigger contraction. And we see that in that contraction, we see that there's a contraction also that comes into the shape or form of bad and good in the world, good and bad in the world. And like in the highest world, everything is good. And in the second world of Bria, there's less good. In the world of Yetzirah, there's even less good. And in the world of Asiya, there's very little good. So the world is such a jungle.
Send this lifetime to different worlds?
Yes. We mentioned it that when you do a mitzvah with the kavana,
Yeah.
that's how in that moment you can go into higher worlds. Also, sometimes it's given to us as a gift in certain parts of the prayer and on Shabbat, etc. So we can sometimes reach higher worlds, but on a regular basis, we're very low. Like where we are right now, we're very low. But when you do a mitzvah, we can definitely reach.
Some people that you just see that they're just in a higher world. It's the way they see
because they're more often more often seeing Hashem.
Yeah.
But I want to.
Okay.
The point of being higher means that you're basically seeing less hiddenness, like less concealment. The more you see Hashem, the higher you are. Higher means that Hashem is more revealed to you. That's what it really means. It means less concealment, less contraction. That's what higher really means. Hashem is the same everywhere. The fact that we're not in this world, we don't see Hashem because of who we are. Hashem created the world that way. Hashem wants us to find Him. Anyway. Yeah, that's the concept. Yeah. Anyways, so we have the 4 worlds. We also have the 10 faculties. Okay. We have the 3 first faculties. Chochmah Bina Dat are like the brain, and Chesed Gvura Tiferet are all the character traits, and each one is different. Each one comes, each one is different, and each one expresses something else in this world. Everything comes in a different shape or form depending on the light of Hashem that has different combinations into this world. Another way of illustrating is if you look at the energy, like the plants of electricity, the original plant, how much electricity it has in there, and until it gets to your house, it goes through a lot of transformators and gets divided into smaller and smaller wires of electricity and less power of electricity, right? There's this contraction happening until it comes to your plugs. from the original plant of electricity.
That's such a good example,
Yeah.
metaphor,
Yeah,
because if you got all of the electricity at once, like
yeah, your house would
You
burn.
wouldn't- yeah.
So
It
you
has
need
to
you
be
need to have less and
contracted, yeah.
less and less. So you have a transform. You have the one that comes into your house, and from there it's also divided into a bunch of plugs into the whole house,
But
right?
it's all coming from the one source of energy.
Yeah. So that's a way of picturing, of trying for ourselves to try and understand what does Hashem's light look like. It's the same light. It's just the way we receive it. We're receiving its different parts of it. So every world, every place, everything, every single item has a different role and has a different level of how much light of Hashem he receives. Okay. And also the light that you receive is of each item that receives it is specific to the role that it has to accomplish. Okay. So I believe that a fly will receive less of Hashem's energy than me. Okay. Like every single thing will receive light based on what it's supposed to do to accomplish in this world. Okay. Now, when you look at this type of light, of course, there's a huge difference when, from our perspective, that light of Hashem in the upper worlds and in the lower worlds. In the upper world, in Atzilut, that light of Hashem is huge. It's so revealed. You see so much of it. It's like it's in abundance. And here, in the world of Asiya, in the lowest world, Hashem's light is so hidden and so contracted, and that's how much I see. Okay, so we're going to see how the Alter Rebbe explains now how, even though Hashem is the same much everywhere, yes, there is a difference depending where you are. From Hashem's perspective, everything's the same. But there is this contraction that has to happen so that we can reveal Hashem in this world and all these little things here. And okay, and he's going to explain how it's more revealed and less revealed, that whole concept. So let's read this inside. So we said there's no difference, but now, yes, the difference between the higher and lower worlds is with regards to the flow of vitality, which the Blessed Ein Sof causes to flow and illumine in a manner of revelation out of concealment, which is one of the reasons why the influence and flow of this vitality is figuratively called light. Okay, the fact that it's a light, by the way, is also like, it's a figure. It's not a real thing. It's not a light of Hashem. It's the way we perceive it, the world light. Okay, it's a way for us to understand. Anyway, thereby animating the world and the creatures therein. For the higher worlds receive this vitality and light in a somewhat more revealed form than do the lower. And all creatures therein in the higher worlds receive the revealed aspect of vitality, albeit each according to its capacity and nature, which is the nature and form of the particular flow with which the Blessed Ein Sof imbues and illuminates it. But the lower worlds and creatures, even the spiritual ones, do not receive the divine life force in quite such a revealed form as it is received in the higher worlds, but only by means of many garments wherein the Blessed Ein Sof invests the vitality and light which he causes to flow and shine on them in order to animate them. Okay, so we know between all these worlds of Hashem's light, our world is the lowest, okay? And the way the Kabbalah calls our world, it's called the world of Asiya, of physical. Like within the world of Asiya, within the lowest world, there's the spiritual and the physical. We're in the most physical place of the lowest world, okay?
Wait, what?
Yes, you have a question?
Sorry, do you mind just re-explaining what you just read a little bit?
Yeah, I explained it before usually, but it's
Oh,
okay.
okay,
I can recapitulate it. No problem. What I just said is the fact that Hashem is the same him. Okay, he's with
It was
his
just
full.
the part about the light that confused, like why we call it light.
Okay. Okay, so all the worlds have a different amount of Hashem's revealed of the revealed part of Hashem. Okay, some places it's more revealed. The question is just the quantity of how much Hashem is revealed. Okay, and the intensity of how much Hashem is revealed. It's not how much of Hashem we have, but it's on how much of the revelation of Hashem we have. how much we see him. You understand? It's not the differences in different worlds is not how much of Hashem there is, but how much of what we see of Hashem. Okay, Hashem is everywhere in the same much. Okay. And in our world, how much quantity of Hashem do we see? Very little, and actually almost none. It's completely hidden. We literally don't see Hashem in this world. Okay, we don't see any of that light, so-called. We don't see it. Okay, because by the time Hashem came to this, by the time Hashem's light or Hashem's life force came into this world, it's so contracted and so covered up by so many curtains, okay, that we almost don't see it. We don't see Hashem. Like literally, look at this world. Do you see Hashem? Like Hashem, like in this world is the only place, like this physical world is the only place that we don't see Hashem in such a revealed way, to the point that some people can say that there's no God. We have people on planet Earth that say there's no God because Hashem is actually completely hidden. Hashem is concealed. You don't see him. Okay. And some people say it's Mother Nature. It's all like happening by itself. It's the laws of nature. Like it's like they don't. A lot of people don't see that it's actually coming from Hashem. But even those people, even us, sometimes things happen and you're like, oh, it happened, and we don't realize that it happened because of Hashem, because Hashem is so concealed. Also, there's a lot of things in the world that are literally that they don't have life, that are dead, and that's why we can think like in the world we can see things that don't move, and we think that they're like they look like they're dead. They like it's all the inanimate stuff. Okay, so from the outside it looks like there's no life to it. It looks like, why do you think, okay, if there's earth on the earth, there's nobody making it. It's dead. It looks dead. So you think that there's no God. Like you don't realize that even those inanimates are really created by God. So Hashem is really, really hidden in this world. Now, although Hashem is completely, there's such a huge concealment in this world, we still have Hashem's light somehow. Okay? Because if Hashem's light wouldn't be in this world wouldn't exist. This world would have fallen apart. If Hashem wouldn't light up this world, Hashem wouldn't hold this world, wouldn't give his life to the world. It's like if the soul wouldn't be in the body would be dead. If Hashem's life, so Hashem is here. Okay? Everything is happening because Hashem is here. But we don't see it. Okay? Now, what's interesting, what we're going to say now is that the fact that Hashem is here, let's say even though you don't see it, but there's a life force holding the world, the source of it is the highest, like the source of this light is in Atzilut, is in such a high place that it's Hashem at its full intensity. This world is alive because the source of it is Hashem at its full intensity, even though we don't see it. Okay? It's coming like and you'll see the Alter Rebbe is going to show you, like even in more details, that it's coming from those worlds, and in those worlds there's the 10 faculties, and it's coming from the lowest. It's coming from Atzilut, but from the lowest part of the Atzilut, from Malchut, which is the 10th of the faculty. It's coming from there and giving light into this world, and that's what's making this world alive. But it's all the different 10 faculties within Malchut that are making this world alive. Basically, what we need to understand is that the fact that the world is alive, Hashem is filling up this whole world. It's really Hashem at its full intensity at the source, even though from our perspective, it's completely concealed. Okay?
Question when you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
So is there another way of, like you were saying, everything comes from Hashem, everything is Hashem, and Hashem is good, then is light also a way of saying goodness? Like if the more that we see.
Yeah, light is Hashem, and Hashem is good. And
So
the
more
fact
we
that you
see
see the light, it means that you see that there's a purpose here. It means that it happens for a reason. It means that there's a God that's taking care of you.
Mhm.
Of course it's positive.
I mean, like, okay, so as long as I'm trying to see Hashem in my, like in the world and myself and everything, then that's me trying to connect to Hashem, connect to.
Yeah, that's for you, Hashem is more revealed. So really you're in a higher world than somebody who Hashem for him is completely concealed. You
So
understand?
Like an example, like when I heard the news earlier today that
So
yeah.
wait, I was gonna read now
Okay.
the last part, and then I'm gonna summarize and conclude. The conclusion is beautiful.
Okay. Let's trust.
Okay.
Oh.
That's right.
So we're now going to say how we are in this lowest world where Hashem is completely concealed, but still within this full concealment, there is Hashem's light holding up the world coming from Atzilut, like from its source. These garments wherein the blessed Ein Sof invests and conceals the light and vitality are so strong and powerful that thereby, with this life force and light, he created this world that is very corporeal and physical. And Hashem creates and animates it by the vitality and light by which he draws down and shines forth onto it. This illumination is a light that is closed, hidden, and concealed within the numerous and powerful garments which hide and conceal the light and vitality, so that no light or vitality whatsoever is visibly revealed, but only corporeal and physical things that appear lifeless. Yet they contain light and vitality, which constantly creates them ex nihilo. Nothing from ex nihilo is me'ayin leyesh, nothing, something from nothing, so that they shall not revert to nothing and they as they had been prior to their creation. This light comes from the blessed Ein Sof, except that it is clothed in many garments. As it is written in Eitz Chaim that the light and vitality of the physical orb of earth, which is seen by mortal eyes, is derived from Malchut of Asiyah. And it is contained Malchut of the next highest world, the world of Yetzirah, and so on. Within Malchut of Yetzirah, in turn, there is contained Malchut of Bria, and so on. So that in all of them, within the level of Malchut of all worlds, including the level of Malchut of Asiyah, are contained within the 10th spherot of the loftiest world, the world of Atzilut. They all come from Atzilut, which are united with their emanator, the blessed Ein Sof. Okay, so they all come really from the actual source. That's what I wanted to show you. So what we learned today is that Hashem is everywhere. He fills up all the worlds and he constantly animates and brings life to all the different things in the world. Okay. Now, that being said, he himself is everywhere in the same intensity, in the same much, like he is everywhere. And for him, he gives life force to everything all the time to the same extent. From his perspective, he's giving the same much upper world and lower worlds everywhere. He's giving himself everywhere. At the same time, some places, like there is a certain order of things where he's going to be more hidden and more concealed and more contracted because of the recipient. Okay, but each one receives the light of Hashem corresponding to what he needs to accomplish and corresponding to his capacity. Okay, so what we're going to be learning today is that it's really a two-sided thing. On one hand, each one is unique. Okay, each animal has something to accomplish. Each person is completely unique, and each one, the fact that each thing was created is for a very technical reason, is very, very, very specific and unique, and that's because Hashem, like everything that was created, is because there is a special role and a special purpose that Hashem created it. Okay, Hashem created each thing with a special role, with a special purpose. And that's why we should each be ourselves. We should each strive to be the best of us. Like, I don't have to be you because Hashem created me for a reason to be me. Hashem wants me to accomplish something in this world. I don't have to copy and be like someone else. Each one can accomplish what he can accomplish. Famous story of Rabbi Zusha of Anipoli, you may have heard it. He was always saying, when I come up there, like after my 120, they're not going to ask me, why weren't you like Avraham Avinu? Why weren't you like Moshe Rabbeinu? Why? And like if they ask me that, I'm gonna tell them I'm not like Avraham Avinu because I'm not Avraham Avinu, and I wasn't like Moshe Rabbeinu because I'm not a Moshe Rabbeinu. But they will ask me, why weren't you Zusha? Why weren't you the best of yourself? Okay, each one was created with a specific neshama, with a specific life force of Hashem, with a specific role, and needs to accomplish the best for that specific neshama. Okay, so knowing that, by the way, that each one is so unique and each one is so created with such different traits and different characteristics for a specific purpose, will help us. Knowing that and reminding this to ourselves will help us in different ways. It helps in a marriage. We need to realize that there's a role of a man and a role of a woman. The man doesn't have to fulfill the role of the woman, and the woman doesn't have to fulfill the role of the man. Each one has specific roles and specific traits. And if each one is who they should be, that will bring the most harmony. Okay? Namely, by the way, talking about marriage, for those of you that it's relevant, a man is supposed to be the mashpia, the giver, and the woman is supposed to be the receiver. The more a woman receives, the more a man gives, and vice versa. And what happens if the woman tries to give to the husband and he's not receiving? That's because she didn't do the role that she was created with. Okay, we're not there to give. We're supposed to be receiving in a receiving way. Okay, it's a whole science, but just saying. Also, when we educate children, okay, each child is a whole world. Okay, the child is not exactly like the parents. Each child is his own human being. Okay, and each one is going to be different and has a different role and has a different personality and a different nature, like a different everything. And each one should be educated according to his character, to his personality. Okay, it says, "Chanoch lanaar al bidarko." You should educate each child according to his style. Okay, so each one needs to find their own place in the house. And it says that when we give attention to specific kids one at a time, that's when they strive the most and there's less fights between the kids. Yeah. Also, when we talk about our friends and our work people, like, you know, everybody has different roles and different things to do. And when we act with what we're meant to do, according to our person, if I contribute with my personality and with my talents, the best that I could, it helps for everybody and it will make less fights between people. Like if I'm trying to be someone that I'm not, and I'm trying to create something that I can't, that's when there's problems that start coming. So on one hand, yes, we're each unique and each with a different purpose, and each should stay like with our uniqueness and receive this specific light force. But on the other hand, Hashem is everywhere the same much. Hashem is the same much in the upper world, in the lower world, in the head and in the head and in the feet, in the synagogue and at home, everywhere. We learned that even though there's so many differences, we shouldn't think that someone is more important than me. Okay, nobody is higher than me, no one is lower than me. We're all the same when it comes to how we look at ourselves with Hashem. We all should have bitul. We're all like nothing towards Hashem, and we all should try our best to get closer to Hashem. And we're all really equal when it comes to that. It's not about comparing. Oh, he's higher, he's less. It's not. That's not going to get us anywhere. Okay, so we learned in this chapter how Hashem's Shechina resides in this world. Okay, so he's everywhere and he's in different levels, like in a different way everywhere. Now we're going to see specifically, in the next chapter, we're going to see specifically where the Shekhinah is when it comes to the wisdom of Hashem. Like when we study Torah, how does Hashem reside within this world or within us when specifically we study Torah? Like how does Hashem's wisdom reside here, whatever, the Torah study? That's the next chapter.